Good evening. Calling the school committee to order. Thursday, August 10th, 2023. First item is our statement regarding recording.
This meeting will be recorded and will be posted to YouTube and other social media platforms. By participating in this meeting, you understand that the recording could contain your video stream or your audio stream, including images of yourself or anyone in the room with you. If you choose to enable your video or audio device during the meeting, as well as anything or anyone else that may be in the background could be recorded. The recording could include any opinions you contribute and anything you say about yourself. On occasion, chat within the meeting could also be captured in the meeting recording. Therefore, anyone attending the recorded meeting may have aspects of their personal data recorded if they actively participate or not.
Thank you. Roll call for attendance, please.
Dr. Allen? Mr. Marsh?
Here.
Mr. Deschamps will not be here tonight.
Okay.
Mr. Willinen?
Here.
Ms. Kelly?
Here.
Ms. Garvey?
Here.
Ms. Cartier is on vacation. Ms. Chamberlain?
Here.
Ms. Cormier?
Here.
Mr. Wiggler?
Here.
Ms. Thompson?
Here.
Mr. Nutter?
Here.
Mr. Jean-Francois? And Mr. Chairman.
Here. Before I start the meeting, I just wanted to have a moment of silence. There was a teacher, a retired teacher that recently died. Tricia Anderson taught 20 plus years in Hubbardston. Is that correct? Is that correct?
Yeah, she taught first grade in Hubbardston.
And there was so 20 years, and I think it was where and when we are aware of deaths. I think it's very, humbling and supportive of us to have a moment of silence for one of our retired teachers, 20 plus years in Hubbardston. Thank you. First item is approval of minutes for the Tuesday, June 20th, 2023 meeting. In your packet as well as on the drive. There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any potential omissions? Any potential deletions? Any other corrections? Seeing and hearing none, roll call for acceptance.
Mr. Marsh?
Yep.
Mr. Willinen?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cormier?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler?
Abstain.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
And Chairman Brophy.
Yes. Administrative reports, the superintendent of schools.
Thanks. So I would like to start by introducing some new members of our administrative team. You'll get to meet our new teachers and staff in September, but I'm going to go in order of hiring. So first I want to introduce Mrs. Erin Cook. Erin joins us as the Hubbardston Center principal. Formerly, she worked at Shrewsbury Public Schools, and she was most recently an advanced math coach, which brings something really unique to our elementary principal team. So we're excited to welcome her. And Dr. John Salavardos is coming to us from Athol Royalston School District. John has been a director of student support for many years, and he also has his degree in psychology. What he brings to us is a great sort of knowledge, especially in thinking about students with social emotional learning needs. So we're really happy to welcome John to our team. And lastly, I think you'll recognize Carrie Vassar. So Carrie is one of our Quabbin teachers. She most recently held the position of literacy coach for the middle high school. And prior to that, she had taught English for many years. So we are happy to welcome Carrie as one of our co-directors of teaching, learning, and support. Thank you, guys.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Absolutely. if there's any question or comment from any school committee member.
You'll hear a little bit more about them in their reports, I'm sure.
That will work. Again, welcome, and things will go well. Thank you for your support, your help, and we have a lot of work to do as we continue to not only increase student achievement, but enhance the learning environment. Thank you. Superintendent?
So I think first we are going to go through our reports, and Cheryl has quite an extensive list that she's going to go over. So for the superintendent report, we've had 6 days of administrative summit over the course of the summer. We did 3 days in June, and we recently did 3 more days in August. This is a time where we work together to sort of build our community together as professionals. We set goals. We identify our areas of focus for the year. We talk a lot about our strategic plan, and then we spend a lot of time really focusing on our safety planning, our school improvement planning, our first day planning. We also had National Night Out, which was held on our grounds up here at the middle high school. It was really well attended. It's totally free for our families, and it's a really great partnership between a lot of our community businesses, our safety, our police. It was really fun to see so many families out and about, and everything that night was free. All of the food, the climbing on the trucks, and everything else that happened. And kids could win a lot of prizes, free dance lesson here and things like that. So it was a great event. Recently, we met with our local police and fire officials. So this was part of, as you know, we're undergoing a safety audit right now. So Shelley St. George is our stop grant coordinator, and Kevin in his role is now our director of school safety. So the 3 of us met on 2 different days because we couldn't get them all in the room on the same day. But we had really productive meetings where we were just trying to ensure consistent communication, procedures and policies with all of our departments. So if something were to happen, we felt that we had the best plan possible. So moving forward, we're going to be having meetings initially probably monthly and then bi-monthly after that. They brought to our attention some things that we needed to think about, and we'll continue to share that out. I think probably during the subcommittee time would be appropriate for some of that work to happen. This week, our Barrie Police Department is sponsoring a police academy for our students. They have 13 students taking advantage of this. And today, if you were anywhere in the neighborhood, you would have heard sirens running, and a state police helicopter came and actually landed on the backfield. So it's a really great experience for our students. And many of them have said, it's made me see that this is a career that I might want to look into. We're hoping that they plan to do it year after year, and we're hoping next year that more of our students will take advantage of that. So that's been really fun to see. One of my goals is around communication. So I did send out a district-wide newsletter to families. We tried to send it to select boards and school committee members. I'll release another one next week, and attached to that newsletter was a survey to get some general perceptions of our school district to help us plan our communication moving forward. As a way of introducing myself, I had scheduled some time to meet with our select board so far. I've attended the New Braintree Select Board meeting and the Hubbardston Select Board meeting. Cheryl and Kevin came with me to New Braintree, and then Kevin came with me again to Hubbardston. As part of our time with them, we were really working on sharing with them some operational procedures for when work is happening in our buildings. And so again, they've given us some great feedback. We've made some adjustments to those protocols, and I will continue to schedule time with the other 3 towns. We have a need for employees. So we have over 25 positions that are unfilled, everything from custodial to food nutrition positions to paraprofessionals and educators, teachers. So we're holding a job fair. It's going to be held on the 14th. We're offering 2 drop-in sessions. So between 9 and 11 in the morning and 5 and 7 at night. We've put this out on an all-call. We've put it in newspapers, and we're just encouraging people who may have questions, may be hesitant to apply, may want to know more about the positions, to come and meet our staff. They will be able to fill out an application here in person when they come. They can ask questions. We have a handout around what our benefits are. We plan to talk to them about what the positions entail. If someone feels like a good candidate, we possibly could do an interview right there on the spot. So help us spread the word. We're excited to see, hopefully that we have a room full of people and that we're able to fill some positions based on this fair. We typically post all of our positions on School Spring. And as many of you know, sometimes School Spring is not super user friendly. So this is a way to get more people in the door. And the last thing I have is just that our new employee orientation will be next week. We have 23 new hires currently, and we hope to hire more, certainly before the start of school. So I'll turn it over to Joe and Carrie. I think Joe is sharing their report tonight.
Hi, everybody. I'm just going to go through some of the things we've been working on in the summer and some things that are going to be coming up this school year that we're going to be working on as well. So our schools have been very busy this summer with a lot of activity and a lot of students in our buildings engaging in a lot of different kinds of learning opportunities. At the high school, we have done 2 3-week credit recovery sessions for students that needed to make up some classes from the last school year. And we've had pretty good results with that. We feel excited about the opportunity we've been able to provide students to help make sure they're on track. We have also done at Ruggles and at the middle high school, we've had a 5-week STEM and literacy camp. It's been a free opportunity for students in grades 1st through 7th grade to come into our school, spend 5 weeks doing hands-on, fun, engaging STEM activities with some of the teachers from the district that have worked with us over the summer. And also, particularly in the elementary school, focusing on some literacy skills and just making sure they're as ready as they can be for the fall. We've gotten great feedback from that. This is the 2nd year we've run that camp, and kids have really enjoyed it. We had a number of kids that were in it last year who came back this year, and some of those kids were even asking us during the school year if that was going to be an opportunity again, if there would be that STEM camp again. So I think that's the best feedback you can get when kids are excited to do it. Then next week, we're going to do a week-long literacy acceleration academy for grades rising kindergarten through rising 8th grade. The elementary program will be at Hardwick. In the middle, 6th, 7th, and 8th will be in the middle school. So that's going to be a week of fairly intensive work and preparation, building literacy skills in our students to help make sure they're ready for the start of the school year and can start it off on the best foot possible. Some other things that will be coming up in the next few weeks and over the beginning of the school year. Next Wednesday is our new employee orientation. So that's a full day of welcoming our new staff for the district and getting them to know Quabbin and our schools and our kids and our community. They'll spend half a day with us in the central office, going over a lot of sort of logistics and nuts and bolts. Then they'll have time in their buildings to meet their administrators, coaches, and other staff, get into their classroom and start getting ready for the start of the school year. Many of them have probably already started, but they'll be able to continue that work. There'll be building orientations the following week, so they'll have more time to get hands-on things like learning more about Aspen and some of our policies and protocols and making sure they're ready with those kinds of practical skills and knowledge that they need to start the school year. Few different big projects that will be happening this year In the middle school, where we have a new science curriculum that we're rolling out. Well, I say new. Some of our teachers had been using it, at least in pieces, but it's going to be a more full, complete implementation in grades 6th, 7th, and 8th, with teachers being able to use that curriculum in a more complete way. We also had gotten a grant to support that work. So we're going to work with a professional development provider to provide, to do some professional development with our staff before the beginning of the school year, and then also come back and do some refreshers, some coaching with staff as they get to know the curriculum more completely. Similarly, we're going to be moving to a new curriculum in math in grades 7, 8, and 9. We're going to have a professional development at the beginning of the year for that as well, to make sure that the staff are as familiar with the curriculum as they can. And we'll be rolling that out. In addition to the new curriculum in high school, we're going to use an integrated math approach, which will combine algebra and geometry concepts in 9th grade. So the new curriculum will support that initiative. And we're really excited about that. We think that that'll be a really positive things for kids. And finally, in grade 6, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has a social studies curriculum that they've released, and we'll be using that this year with our 6th grade team, sort of as a pilot and to test how that curriculum is going to go. Another big project that's a focus in the middle school is the implementation or really piloting of a co-teaching model with some of our staff who have signed up and are interested in trying that. For those that might not know, co-teaching is when you have, a content area teacher in ELA or in math, teaching alongside a special education teacher. So both teachers are in the room. They will teach alongside each other, and then also have opportunities to work with smaller groups of students to provide more focused and targeted support for students that might need some additional time, but also offer enrichment activities for kids that are ready to sort of move ahead and learn new materials well before other people might be at that place. So like I said, that's going to be focused on the middle school this year. And another big piece that we'll be working on in the elementary and secondary schools is continuing the equity work with Dr. Shiraki Holly. So last year, you might remember, we did a binder study with the secondary teachers and did some pretty intensive work there. And we had some teachers that received coaching from Dr. Holly's group. That work is going to continue at the high school. We'll continue some professional development around that. But the binder study that we did last year at the secondary school, we're going to do that this year with elementary teachers. So elementary teachers will start that work, the binder study work, as a full district, continue doing professional development around culturally responsive teaching, culturally and linguistically responsive teaching and learning. So those are all big projects that you'll be hearing more about throughout the school year.
So.
Thank you. No, it's okay. No, thank you, Mr. Wyman. Joe, is there any quick follow-up? Any committee member? Joe, I got just one quick. In regards to credit recovery, was that a computer-based or was that more interactive with teachers?
That's a great question, because I should have made that clear. The 2 3-week sessions were with teachers. They were with quality.
Beautiful.
Students came into the building and we did in-person teaching. We do have a program that we've used, and we've used it for a number of years since before I started working in the district, called Edgenuity. So there were additional students that were able to take advantage of that program. For some students that made more sense or worked better for them to do some online learning. But this year, what we did for the first time in at least a couple of years was provide in-person credit recovery opportunities with Quabbin teachers in the middle high school.
Fantastic. And just one other last one. How is the enrollment and participation been? I know we'll hear about the extended year programs, schooling, but in regards to the STEM and the literacy and numeracy, how's participation and participation been?
Yeah, so the STEM camp, I think we had a really great response. And I think the fact that we ran it last year, so people are sort of familiar with it. And we had received the grant last year, so we were able to start recruiting a little earlier, really benefited that. With the Acceleration Academy, it's been tougher. I think the fact that it's only a week and it's at the end of the summer has been made a little tougher. And then We also didn't get the grant notification until after July. So and I think it was hard for parents to sort of reserve that time or be available for that time. But I think the kids that are able to participate will get a great benefit. We've run similar programs in the past, and we've seen the ways in which it can help kids.
Thanks. Superintendent?
So next would be the Director of Technology report. Andrew is off tonight, but just a few highlights are that the security camera project is finally complete. We're continuing our work on the website, and his team has been super busy working on completing all the Chromebooks and updating things. I think he said the other day they had worked on 1,100 Chromebooks, so they've been incredibly busy. Next would be Cheryl.
As the superintendent mentioned, we have some positions open in school nutrition. Our school nutrition director position is open. We had 3 who we thought were viable applicants, and 2 of them declined the offers. So we are now posting in the Telegram and local papers and Indeed and anywhere else we can think of to generate some interest in that position. We also have 2 school nutrition team member positions open, one at Ruggles Lane and one at Hubbardston,
Okay.
as well as we are looking for substitutes all the time. So hopefully we may be able to get some subs on Monday afternoon. The accounting team continues to work on the fiscal year close, and I do have my reports later on, as well as the warrant report later on.
Yep. And next, Mr. Devine is going to share what's happening as the Director of Guidance for External Partnerships.
Good evening. There's a few different things happening, and a lot of this is just follow-up for you to be aware of what's happening. The early college process, which we've talked about during the school year, we finally gotten to the part where we're filling out Part A of the application. It's a 2-year process, and we're kind of at the end of the first year of the process, filling out the Part A of the application, and that's due August 25th. Part B of the application is due in January. So that's the next step, and it's a team process. I've been working with administrative staff from both the central office and the high school in terms of reviewing the application as we go forward. In terms of developing our relationship with Assumption University, since we've met in June, the district has officially become a partner with Assumption University, and this program will be rolled out to our faculty and staff in August. I'm meeting with there's a person coming out from Assumption University to meet with me this coming week. And what this means is that our faculty and staff can access graduate coursework through Assumption University at a reduced rate of 25%. If you have the document of the school committee report from the superintendent in your packet, you will be able to access more information regarding that in the document that's attached there. And probably the most important thing and the most exciting thing that I've been dealing with this summer is our summer internships. The district has hosted 17 interns this summer in 3 different programs. Actually, it's more than that. We've had interns at the STEM camps at both RLS and the middle school. The tech department has benefited from our interns in a special project to organize signage for the middle high school, which has been led by Therese Salvador. One of the Quabbin hosted interns worked at the New Braintree Fire Department this summer with Chief Dennis Latender doing technical IT work. And that was a continuation of the work that was begun by an intern during the school year. So that's been really fruitful for the New Braintree Fire Department. Probably one of the most exciting aspects of this is we've had 7 student interns working at FlexCon in Spencer this summer. That I was able to attend their presentations yesterday. They finished their internships yesterday, and all 7 of those students were able to present on the projects that they've been working on. And they really have done a wonderful job. They got very flattering reports from the people at FlexCon in terms of the work that they did. One particular person who worked with one of our kids said that they were absolutely amazed at how well-rounded our students were in terms of their ability to think on their feet, in terms of their ability to communicate, in terms of their ability to follow through and process things. And it's definitely clear that FlexCon is a corporation and a company that very much is dedicated to not just having interns to get things out of the interns, which I think a lot of companies just lend themselves to do that. FlexCon really is a wonderful place for our kids to go because FlexCon is dedicated to giving our students the opportunities to learn and to develop, and that's just as important to them as getting any kind of benefit from the interns themselves. Howie Latender, who is an outreach person for FlexCon. I want to thank him for facilitating that internship program. And also Therese Salvador, I didn't write that in there, but Therese Salvador did kind of all the running around at the beginning of this to get this set up for those kids. And also very special thanks to Walter Nutter and Dave Deschamps for helping to facilitate student transportation to FlexCon on Fridays. We were able to transport a student to FlexCon because of the van process the vans that we have now. And that was greatly appreciated. And it gave a student an opportunity to access that internship that they may not have been able to have otherwise. All of these interns are being paid $15 an hour for up to 100 hours with state funding through Mass Hire. And at Mass Hire, the people that we worked with are Kelly French, Mary Chase, who does the payroll, and Anthony Wilson for helping us facilitate that program. So that's been really the most exciting thing that I've dealt with this summer is those kids being able to work. Thank you.
Any questions for Greg?
Any questions? Yes. No?
And so lastly, we have Dr. Salavardos. I told him I'm going to practice this. He's going to share his report.
So over the last month, I've had a chance to actually make quite a lot of our summer programs and these on the staff. And actually talk about how summer programming is working over the last few years. And I know that, our programs have kind of like staggered schedules. We have 4-week programs, we have 6-week programs. So we have one of our programs, the SOAR Classroom, actually has another week before it comes to an end. So during that time, I've had a chance to talk with the parents and teachers, also been moving around some of the different districts and meeting administrators in each building, participating in some of the interviews and also helping to set up some of the interviews and kind of expanding our application process relevant to where we actually post at. So I've reached out to Indeed. We have 3 positions actually posted through both School Spring and Indeed at this point. We've got several different positions that are available relevant to mostly paraprofessionals, but also some teaching positions as well. We're hoping to get those buttoned up as soon as we can. But the other thing that I've been working on quite a bit is essentially reaching out to the out-of-district programs where we have students, and also connecting with different state agencies for those supports that are actually connected to those students. So we've had some good sharing of information and conversations about where some of the cases are going, what we can actually do to help support sometimes the families and the students, especially if we get to those conversations where we're talking about bringing students back in the district. And probably one of the other larger projects I think I've been participating in as part of the greater district team with other stakeholders has been the inclusion and co-teaching process. And that is something that I'm going to say for the last 16 years as a director that I've been kind of knee deep in several different districts, and looking forward to seeing how it shapes up here as well.
Any questions, John? And welcome and thank you. And
Thank you.
with more things to come and what's happening during the year and with our subcommittee work and everything else. So looking forward to that.
Back to Cheryl.
I just have the warrant report at this time. Since our last school committee meeting, the following warrants have been released by Mr. Deschamps and others. Biweekly payroll for FY 23, 26, 26.1, and 27. For FY 24, biweekly payrolls 1, 2, and 3. For weekly payrolls in FY 23, 51 and 52. For FY 24, payrolls 1 through 5. Here we go. Accounts payable warrants for FY 23, 89A, 90B, 91B, 92FQ, 93FR, 94FP, 95FU, 96FO for FY 24, 1H, 2A, 3A, 4H, 5A, 6B, 8FP, 9FU, and 10FO. If you're wondering, number 7 is still in progress.
I was wondering what happened to 7.
I had to highlight it.
Charlotte, were any of these done internationally?
No, I don't believe so.
Oh, he's in Canada, right?
Oh, I don't know. Dave signing into, no, yes, they probably were, yes.
Beautiful. You want to do any budget closing? You want to wait for that afterwards?
That's later in the agenda.
Okay, I'm good with that.
So Teacher Advisory Council, we don't have anyone here tonight, but I'm going to ask Mr. Clark to kick us off a little bit about our student presentation. So Director Kevin Clark and Elaine Karen had started thinking about this project a while back, and it really has been kind of the impetus for the student internship that you're going to hear about tonight.
So a few years ago, we were looking at the way that the school is set up for wayfinding signage maps for people to get around, whether it's people coming in from the community or new students. Found that a lot of things were confusing, missing, or just not right. We started to put some things in place and met with a sign company that I had used in the past and came up with some ideas and some thought processes of how we were going to continue with it. And we ended up partnering with Therese and her students and set up meetings with them over what we were envisioning, but also set them up with the sign company. And Therese was able to partner with the sign company, internship with them, allow their students to visit with the sign company, and they went through the sign company's shop. He showed them how things were made and that kind of thing like that. But he also was able to take them, set them up with someone at UMass where they were able to go through UMass Hospital, which he had helped sign, and go through there to get some ideas, etc. And then they were able to come up with a plan. And I'll kind of turn it over to Therese.
Okay. So as part of our Innovation Pathway program, students are required in their senior year to do a 100-hour industry-based internship work experience. So I personally am grateful to Kevin and to Mass Hire for making this happen this year, because these students, so Nick Warburton and Charles McKinstry, along with Natalia Marchand and Natalie Cruz, the other two students who can't be here tonight, they were able to go through this 100-hour internship that was a hefty project that was extremely real world. And for me, it gave me a really clear view of the types of experiences we need to set up for our students in the future. From everything to having industry partners along the ride with us, and sort of like the structure of how we run an internship. So this summer has been extremely valuable and a huge learning process to me. So Nick and Charles are going to go ahead and take you through their experience. They're going to put the presentation up.
Alrighty. So like everyone has been saying, like everyone has been saying, we've been tasked with with an internship to make a wayfinding system for our school. And yeah. Next slide. So, first we'll be starting with the research that we gathered from AG Signs, UMass Memorial, and then a study that we conducted on our own. And then what we took away from that research, and the solutions that we came up with, and then where we will be design and where we will be placing these signs, and eventual potential expansion to the rest of the school district. Next slide. So going into our research, next slide. First, we met with Mike from AG Signs, who explained the idea of wayfinding to us in general. He taught us how different buildings incorporated wayfinding into their building to fit their needs. Then lastly, he showed us around the shop and all the possible materials and machines that we could use for our design. Then we went to UMass Memorial Hospital. We took a tour with the representative from the communications department. She helped us understand their thought process and how they incorporated signage into their wayfinding system, how they first decided to direct people to elevators using letters and colors, and then bringing them to the floor that they need to be on, which eventually brings them to their final destination. Then our last piece of research that we conducted was our own experiment with the STEM camp students that are 5th, 6th, and 7th graders. We did a scavenger hunt with a list of classrooms that they had to go around the school looking for the classroom numbers and it was important that we use them because they aren't really familiar with the school, so it kind of gave us an idea of our target audience and what they are going through. Next slide, please. So yeah, this is what I'm taking away from it.
We learned about the audience that would be incoming sixth and ninth graders. It would be school choice students, new staff, visitors, and emergency personnel. And these signs would need to be easy to read for all of them and have points of interest that all of them would need to know to get to. For facility, we decided, as Nick stated earlier, that we would split the building up into 2 buildings, going along with the gold and blue office themes. The old building, which is most known as the high school, would be the gold building, and the newer addition to it, which is 3 floors, would be the blue building. And that would help get people around. So instead of just going to the high school, middle school, where people might not know that, the signs would say gold or blue. And for less is more, our initial idea was to basically just repaint the whole school. And upon meeting with Kevin and Elaine, they showed us how expensive and time. And when we went to UMass Memorial and met with them, we noticed that they just had basic signs with pictograms, and that was very simple to read and it was very easy to get around. And we applied that here to make signs with simple symbols and small words instead of full sentences so that it's easier to read. Next sentence.
Alrighty, so for our solutions. So our idea was to break the school into 2 halves, not by like middle school and high school, but by the actual structure of the school. So we have the older section being gold, that's like the high school actually, so we decided to use gold because it follows the gold office theme that we implemented this past year. And then the new addition, which is 3 floors and known as the middle school, being blue. So our goal was to be able to guide a person from zone to hallway to classroom. So once they're in the zone, they'll find their hallway and then they'll find the classroom in that hallway. And then the reason why we did actual physical space is because the middle school and high school are constantly overlapping and changing with teachers moving around in classrooms. So if we did actual middle school and high school, the information could be outdated after 1 year. Next slide, please.
So our initial thoughts was label the hallways by numbers or letters, and we found that is minimal visual appeal, doesn't really stick, and might cause confusion among the students and staff and everyone who needs to find their way around. And our second thought was to base the hallways around the vision of the graduate, which is respect, resilience, responsibility, and innovation. To increase visual appeal, we decided to use animals to represent these 4 aspects, and it would be easier to differentiate and prove a more welcome environment for everyone who needs to come in.
All right, going into the Quadrant's vision of a graduate, it's commonly unknown to students due to a lack of branding. Like me personally, I just graduated and I had never heard of this at all, like any of the traits. So I guess that's what I'm supposed to be, but by incorporating this into the school with hallways, it provides that branding that it needs and requires for students to be able to understand it and what they're striving for as young adults. So these are the 4 animal icons that we currently selected and they're still undergoing approval. Purpose of utilizing these animal icons over letters or numbers is that it's more eye-catching. Like if you see a letter or a number, you're not going to really correlate that to hallway very quickly. But if you see like eagle, I feel like that's going to stick in your brain more. It also, instead of using like words, it also will allow for more signage, for more stuff on our signs, and it gives it a cleaner look for like the entire of it. We can fit more information. And then furthermore, to avoid any confusion between hallways, so you could be confused between eagle and bear if you're just looking at overhead signage. We also decided to add floor stickers at the beginning and end of each hallways so that you're able to tell which hallway you're in. So if I started walking in the eagle hallway, there would be an eagle on the floor of the icon. And then at the end of that hallway, there would be another eagle and then the next sticker for the hallway that you're entering. You can go to the next slide, please. So you may be wondering, how are we going to easily... So something I did forget to mention, I'm sorry, is that these animals do represent these traits, they correspond and pair well with them, and that's something that we took into our thought process behind deciding them. And you may be wondering how we can identify them to the public as such. So on our main directories that we will have at the most common entrances throughout the school. They'll have keys that explain the vision and what each icon represents in terms of their trade. Also, you may be concerned about like this threatening the panther in terms of our mascot, but we decided to make that as the foundation. The ground level floor will be all panther floor, as it's the foundation of our school and holding everything else up on it. And all these are not meant to challenge it and such, they just are hallways. Next slide, please.
So the benefits of using the animal icons, they would create awareness for the vision and the four qualities that students should strive for so that they can actually know what it is. And the icons are visually appealing and catchy. They can be easily identified between each other. And it's a cleaner look rather than having a wordy sign that no student would really look to read. And it creates an emotional connection with the audience compared to using inanimate objects and numbers, which would have no connection, would just be bland. It might convey the thought of it, instead of being a school, more of a hospital or airport terminal. Next slide, please.
So the design and placement of our signage.
So the design of the signage, we designed our signage to make use of emphasized simplicity in order to make things clear and everything concise. So up here you can see what would be in the high school and middle school, the gold and blue. What would be represented is, so the signs in the blue section would have blue trim and have the animal icon, classroom numbers, and more icons showing what points of interest there is. So bathrooms, offices, nurse, elevators, and it would be the same but for gold in the gold section. And if some hallways are conjoined, we have some half split icons. And if it's a hallway that it isn't the same hallway going through the whole school, then we will have solid icons on the sign showing which way is what. And on the directory, like Nick has stated before, there'll be a key showing which trait of the graduate, and we'll explain which one is for what. And on each floor, it will have a section saying what is on each floor, so what bathrooms there are, what classrooms, what offices, and such. Next slide, please.
So for the placement of our signs, our directories, our large scale ones will be placed at all main entrances, like the high school gym, the community entrance, the middle school entrance, and the high school entrance. And then we will have smaller floor directories throughout the school that won't have the vision on it, like the vision key on it, but it'll tell you what all the points of interest on that floor are. And then we'll have overhead signs that will be placed on the double doors throughout the school in hallways, letting you know what's ahead, where to turn for what you're looking for. And then hanging signs that are essentially the same as the overhead signs, but they're just used in areas that lack proper structure, but still need signage. And then lastly, we have our floor stickers, like I was saying, will be placed at the beginning and end of each hallway with the animal icon on it. Next slide, please. Okay, so as for our expansion and rolling it out into the rest of the school district, next slide, please. We determined after our travels to all the other elementary schools throughout, we could use this wayfinding system throughout all those schools, and it would still be effective. And the advantages to doing that is that you instill the vision with them from day one. So K through 12, they're constantly reminded of what they're striving for as young adults, as well as the fact that this will provide a smoother transition from elementary school to middle school and middle school to high school, because they'll already be familiar with the wayfinding system and they'll be able to pick it up in the high school that quickly and understand everything.
Any questions?
I think it's awesome.
Yeah, any questions? Lee?
Yeah, so I need to know, is there any strong runner-up to the 4 animal icons that you chose?
Well, these are the 4 icons that are undergoing the final approval right now.
Right, but you didn't have like a 5th one that you sort of said, ooh, should we choose this one? Should we not? I mean, did a hawk or a turkey vulture? I mean,
Hawk was debated, but we tried to keep them like all like that kind of matched in a way, like if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And we also tried to keep them in the quadrant region to create like a sense of this is what's around here.
Right.
Anyone else?
So I just want to comment on another thing. Another part this is really going to benefit is actually local law enforcement. Because if you in the building, you have so many on-call departments, so many newcomers in this building. I graduated from this building when I started back here a few years ago and came in. I knew where parts of it was, but the rest of it, I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about, where it is or anything. And the way it's currently signed and directed through that building right now, there's a lot of things that you're not gonna know whether it's a bathroom or an elevator or it's a staircase and stuff like that. There is not consistent signage for someone that's not familiar with it to understand it. And when we first met with the kids and Therese, we told them what we were looking for and everything else. They came back to us with a plan, as they said, about, quite a bit of painting and stuff. And, we talked about kind of, if you have a budgeted number and you come back with, $50,000 worth of work, but we're working with 25, how to value engineer the project down, but get the same result the best we could. And I think after they actually met with Mike and went to UMass and they came back, it's exactly what we envisioned. I can't speak enough to how good of a job these kids did. We walked the building with them, I think on 4 separate occasions. They actually made up mock signage, put them in every location. We went step by step on every one of them, I think 3 times now. And we made corrections where we all felt we missed something or didn't, and collaboratively came up with a plan. And like I said, I can't speak enough to how well they did. I think it's a great plan.
When will they be put in place?
Relatively soon, we're hoping.
Anyone else?
I just want to applaud the students on behalf of the admin team at the middle high school. All of you students have identified a huge challenge that our school has in terms of finding the way, especially when there's a safety issue. Saying go to H206 often does not help most people on a walkie or anybody in the building supporting us. But saying, hey, I want you to go down to the bare hallway, the bare gold hallway, that's very clear, and we're really looking forward to that. So you've identified an issue, you have visited a hospital and university and learned from that piece. You have planned and incorporated our core vision of the graduate within that structure. You've sort of equated it from the elementary level, so how it can be all consistent and fluid through conversations and stories for the younger kids and middle and high, we're living those core values and dreams. And I also want to applaud you for taking a lot of feedback from the administrators in terms of some of the prior animals chosen, and we gave you the challenge to think about some of the negative connotations potentially attached to the previous animals you did choose, and you were open-minded enough to do some of the research work as well as incorporate an international lens of maybe animals that have not been thought of, and to be neutral about that stance. So you've taken our feedback, you've run with it. We really look forward to a really great wayfinding system that will help support new staff, current staff, safety issues, and much more for the future to come. So this is a project, I would say, that if we would hire a consultant and do this, would be thousands of dollars for us, and really well done. Really, really impressed. So thank you.
Thank you, Pranima. I think you're absolutely right. Better than consultants, real life, and not only the core and the pillars of what we believe in, but also the real understanding from cost to production to efficiency and result, which you already said you'd like to have it that students as young as preschool and kindergarten would be eventually not only exposed, but the language, it'd be a common language and a common understanding. Visual, on whatever it may be, but that is fantastic. Your approach, your seriousness of the approach, your analysis of the approach. And now you'll be able to put it together, and you're probably still going to evaluate it on an ongoing piece to find out if is it effective. Am I correct?
Yes.
Beautiful.
I'm going to drive you nuts because you're going to go into other buildings now with science consideration.
It's funny, one of the students who couldn't be here tonight came in this week and was like, Mrs. Salvador, now all I can see are signs. I was like, that's awesome. She was just like, okay. One thing we should add, and Kevin alluded to it, but at the conclusion of the project, the students did run the plan by the signage company once again, just to make sure that we are on budget. And right now for the high school project, we are within the scope that Kevin asked us to stay in with their current plan. So, there were so many aspects that the kids handled on this that I'm just amazed at what they did.
Absolutely. Great job.
Nice job.
Very nice. Thank you. You can stay if you'd like further, but if not, you're free to go, not a problem. Enjoy your evening. Thank you. Back to the agenda. Next is subcommittee reports. I just want to make a comment as we go through. There's probably nothing with administrative review in central office, but we know that committees will be meeting soon, starting off the year. And we have a lot of items coming up as well. So I know with the administrative review on the central office, student representative model we were looking at. We talked about that last May and June. That would be part of the study to do that. We also, I think it might make sense that the safety audit, when that comes, that will go to the central office. Audit is in October, most probably, Cheryl, this year, or we don't know, anticipating.
No, the auditors will be on site on Monday, but if anything is the same as it has been with Worcester Regional Retirement, you probably won't see them at our meeting in October.
Gotcha. Budget, hold that for now, for the budget closing that will come, and for keeping Mark informed for anything that we have that's going to cost. We'll go through the budget subcommittee before it bubbles up to us. With collective bargaining, we're in good shape. I know Dave isn't here. Buildings and grounds haven't met yet, correct? But I know you'll want to know updates of what's going on, as well as maybe potential other issues in regards to where we are HVAC, where we are with the press box, things like that.
We're going to have to look at the capital plan, I guess.
Capital plan.
Is that right? Sure.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Just kind of giving you a quick outline of what kind of work we have ahead of us. And then the operating procedures, which was wonderful, hearing from the superintendent as they're meeting with the towns. But it's also a nice thing too, that we all are aware, because it makes sense to be what is going on in a building. If there is work going on, who is in charge? What do you do? You know, it's amazing what we take for granted, just like the buildings, accessing places. Policy and review, I know Dr. Allen has a lot on that. Student services, special education. We have a new director, and we also have Peg, and we have a new director, and where we are on anything else with special ed coming up. Technology is going to be a big one. AI, some research has to be done and looked at that for AI. Where are we on that? Where does it belong in the classroom? How's it used? What's it for? That's huge what's going to be coming out on the technology this year. Ad hoc school district. I would think preschool was something that.
Are you going to let any of the subcommittee chairs like comment?
Yes, that's what I was supposed to do.
No. I mean, you know, maybe budget or somebody wants to say something instead of you running through everybody's stuff.
If you wanted to let me finish, I was going to ask you to say something, but you interrupted me.
He was in summer mode.
It's not me. I'm saying any subcommittee chair. But go ahead. Keep on going. Your role.
No. This is important because you got to make sure that we meet and do those obligations at our subcommittee. So we plan accordingly and effectively. That's what we are as a school committee in our obligation. That's all I wanted to emphasize on as I opened up. And then I wanted to ask all the members, is there early meetings you'd like to start? And is there anything that you want to comment on in regards to the beginning of the year regarding your committee? So.
Sure. No, and you and I have briefly chatted that regarding the ad hoc. So I'm sure everybody knows for this calendar year, the ad hoc subcommittee never met. Not because there weren't any thoughts on what to meet upon, but between all our negotiations, the superintendent search, subcommittee, budget, and all the other stuff we did, there probably was not a date that either school committee members or the administration could get together on and do anything meaningful. So it's not like, well, we just didn't want to do anything, but that was part of it. But a couple things, you know, we had started going through, I think, actually the beginning of last year, September, started going through the elementaries and looking at the space that elementaries have. And And I had some surprise. There were some surprises, like walking through OCAM. I remember like 3 or 4 years ago, we were discussing, wow, we have a whole wing that there's nothing there, or that was kind of the mindset I had. And then when we walk through, I mean, a lot of those classrooms, they're pretty full up. There's a lot of stuff that's in there, and there's not a lot of empty space, I guess. Maybe in my mind, at least, I was thinking there was empty space there. But I haven't been in Ruggles probably since pre-COVID, or Hubbardston, the same thing. So I think we'd like to maybe go through the elementaries again, and the middle high school too. I mean, we did that whole 6th grade movement up there, but we really haven't walked through since that whole year where we were looking at and speaking to teachers. Well, that's going to be really helpful. We'll have to figure out where they are. And the other thing I think that we sort of touched upon is maybe, it might be a little early, but maybe start looking at the lease agreements we have on the elementary schools. Because I think they end, my recollection is they end on a calendar year, so I think it's 25.
Yeah.
But, if we have a little luxury of time, which it doesn't seem we've had the last year and a half, maybe the last 2 or 3 years, then maybe we should start looking at something, and we can pull in maybe check with what some of the other districts do on their leases. And, ours have been boilerplate, but I think that maybe, as we've discovered over the last few years, we may have to individualize them. There may be some boilerplate stuff, obviously, but we may have to individualize some of these leases based upon what the school situation is.
Right.
And that's my thought. Any ad hoc members want to chime in on any of that? Or?
Only that the leases are, as I remember correctly, a lot of difference. Well, not a lot of differences, but there are differences just about every lease. Minor things, but, they're not all, and I know they're not tailored to one school or another.
No, they're not.
Just more agreements with the various select boards. They weren't exactly the same. I think that's what happened.
But anyway, so yeah, I think that's something we should start looking at too.
Great.
I have a question as the newest member and having no idea what committees I'm on. I just signed the paper. How do we schedule the dates? How do I know which committee I got placed on?
Yeah, wherever you signed up on, and the chairs of the committee, and that paper will be sent out to all of us as well.
Yep. All right, you just got me nervous because I was like, are we all meeting already? And
No, nobody's met. It was summer. It was a summer mode.
Yeah.
I'll be in touch, don't worry.
It was a summer mode. So.
You will not miss it.
Peg, anything on special ed? Okay. Okay. Mark, budget?
Is this the budget report or not? Is this what we're talking, the budget report?
Or anything that you want coming up?
What I would really like, I mean, obviously, you're all aware that we do have a budget for the coming year. After many meetings, school committee meetings, meetings, budget meetings, whatever. I would hope that, we had one town that actually really didn't come along with the process. 4 out of 5 voted it. And I would hope that, for the coming year, we can really try and get everybody on board early with full explanations of where we're heading. Not that we didn't do it this year, but try and draw these folks in earlier on in the process. It just becomes a lot easier to deal with rather than the questions coming up May 30th, like a week before the town meeting. So the bottom line is hopefully we can do that. We do have a modification to close out of this year, but we want to wait on it. We want to wait on it, close out of 23.
Do you want to?
All right.
Okay.
There are a number of different categories here. In front of you, you have the budget adjustment request for the period ending 6/30/23, and at the bottom, a number of detailed changes at the category level, and I'll turn it over to Cheryl.
So as you remember, I came to you with a request for transfer as to where we were at that point, and then also asked you to give the authority to close out our budget the best that we could. So I know this is a very large report, but what it shows is where we started our FY23 budget and all of the amendments that have taken place since the beginning of the year. This is the report that goes to the auditors. This is what they want to see, along with all of your votes that back up those columns. So this year, we are ending our FY23 year with $87,270, or less than 0.25% left.
Wow.
And there was a number of things we did to get there, but that $87,000 will drop to E&D, okay? In the
Okay.
second to last column are the budget adjustments that I'm asking for tonight. And then what you can see is where the budget will be after if these requests are approved. Down below, I have provided more detail than I have in the past, rather than just saying we're transferring between these accounts, telling you what category of the budget there was money left in, or what function code of the budget was overdrawn, and how we are making all the accounts balance out. Later on tomorrow, I have 11 pages of 11 by 17 paper of all the transfers that actually need to be made. But that's all I really have to say about this. We close down so that we will have money available when ESSER 3 ends.
Okay.
And FY25's budget no longer has that funding source for a number of programs that we put into place because of COVID. Mr. Wiggler asked what I had for a motion tonight, since there's so many there. I think we're going to talk about as presented, aren't we?
I'll make a motion. I'll move that we approve the budget adjustment request detailed transfers as presented on the appropriation controller.
Second.
And a second, okay. Any further discussion?
The report dated 6/30/2023.
Okay.
Want the date?
As stated, yes, 6/30/2023.
Second.
Was already done?
Okay.
Any further questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Lanner?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cormier?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler?
Yes.
Ms. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
In
Good.
addition to the expenses, I also just want to give you, I did get the revenue report done. We will have an additional $178,253 over what was projected from revenue. A number of sources for that. Transportation reimbursement, charter reimbursement, and reimbursement for homeless or foster students. And that will be dropping to E&D as well.
Indeed. Okay. Before we go on to the next item, Mr. Marsh, anything on technology or we'll be scheduling a meeting?
Scheduling a meeting.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next is unfinished business, discussion of band borrowing for the chiller replacement project. Superintendent.
So as most of you know, we met last Tuesday, and our goal was to have our representation from our 3 select boards to come to terms with the length of loan for the borrowing for the chiller project. Because of a couple different factors, we were not able to accomplish that night. However, I would recommend that we actually, so the school committee can determine the loan, the duration of the borrowing. And so I'm recommending that we actually do that. So we know that the towns are all on board with 5 years. So I think we should start by making a motion around that borrowing. And then I will debrief with you sort of where we are in the chiller process.
I'd like to move that we set the terms of borrowing for the chiller replacement project for a term of 5 years.
Second, okay. Superintendent, any?
Do you do all in favor?
Not yet.
Oh, sorry.
Any further comment? Seeing, hearing none, roll call.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Lannan?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cormier?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler?
Yes.
Ms. Thompson? Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Okay, Superintendent?
So one of the reasons I wanted to start with that motion is because after talking to the towns on a few different occasions this past week, the towns are committed to the project. They agree to the borrowing. During our meeting on Tuesday, we had fielded a lot of questions, and I think there was a lot of confusion and concern. So after unpacking some of that concern, Cheryl and I have been working together for the past week. I think the concern, well, I know the concern is really around this idea that could there be a possible inequity if 3 of the towns who are accessing debt services through the district, they have apportionment factored in over the term of the loan, while the other 2 towns' apportionment is set on one date as of October 2nd, 2022. So Cheryl and I spoke to bond counsel. I also reached out to legal counsel. In the regional agreement, it states that debt service payment of costs, it states that each member town will pay to the district its apportioned share of the debt service, both in principal and interest. So it is there. And I just want to say that we know the language has been used for many, many years, and it served us really well over that time. But we have a bit of unique circumstance in this case because 2 of our towns have chosen to prepay for the project. So after talking to council, they did agree that this could create inequity. We spoke with bond counsel and they offered a solution that Cheryl and I feel would work, and that is entering into an intermunicipal agreement. If we do that, all 5 of the towns and the school committee would need to vote favorably of doing this together. What it would need to state is something like, in this unique case, this is not to set precedent, it's for this project only. And the agreement would be something like that all the town's apportionment is factored as of that October 1 enrollment in 2022, and that the apportioned share of the debt, that apportioned share of the debt would continue through the duration of the loan for those 3 towns in particular. I don't know if Cheryl wants to add anything to that. Okay. So that's where we stand. We've been looking into this. It feels to us like this could be a way to address the concerns. It would be a one-time situation, a very unique situation. And it feels like it would not change things for OCAM and New Braintree, who sort of voted to pay this upfront. So I guess.
You're going to look into it.
Any questions or concerns around that?
Well, previously when we borrowed, did any town ever want to prepay? Or did they all, when we borrowed, all towns borrowed on any project?
I think there's only been one borrowing that we've done. And that was the middle high school atrium and panel project. That's the only one I can remember.
Okay.
This project's cost is significantly lower.
Lower.
In the past, it's been millions.
Right. So obviously everybody borrowed. Right.
For 13 years on that one, yes.
So any questions?
Yeah, so break it down for me a little more. So
Sure.
The agreement that you just stated that the 5 towns in the school committee would agree to, so we're not setting a precedent. So we're at 5% for 5 towns or 3 towns? Because you lost me for a second.
What do you mean 5%? 5 years?
5 years. 5 years, excuse me.
5 years for all 3 towns. That's the duration. That's what you just voted on.
3.
Yes, because the other 2 towns are paying up front.
Right, okay, so,
Yep.
so,
The apportionments are based on.
no, I know the apportionment. So I guess I don't understand what we're doing that's different than we just voted on. If the 2 towns, if the Braintree and Oakham are already set to just pay it off right away. And we're not changing anything, correct?
Yes, we are.
No, yeah,
So what
we
are
are.
we changing?
We're
The ebb and
changing,
flow.
We're changing the language in the regional agreement that says over the term of 5 years, the town's share will change based on enrollment. We're going to change it to say that apportionment percentage stays as it is set for Oakham and New Braintree based on last October's enrollment.
But should the, go ahead.
Well,
Should the enrollment in Ocam, say, go up by 30 kids, they're paid, so it's not gonna change, right?
It's not, we are taking away the fluctuation over time for everyone. Everyone's apportionment will be as it is with the October, actually on the numbers that I presented that night. So it'll stay there
Oh, it's gonna stay same.
for all 5
I
towns.
guess I misheard you. I thought you said.
as a potential one-time,
Okay.
non-precedent setting situation.
All right. I think if the 3 towns that are infected agree, then.
All 5 towns and the
Plus us.
school.
But I mean, the
committee.
3 towns that are impacted are the ones that would have the most to lose, right? Or gain.
Right, that seemed to be part of the conversation
Yeah.
at the last school committee meeting, or at least it was brought up.
Yes.
By the Hubbardston people, so,
They talked about equity.
yeah.
Anyone else? Questions for the superintendent on that? Good. Stay tuned. We'll know more. You'll keep us up.
Yes, so Cheryl has been working with bond council already. It would be our hope that we could have something in place, and then we'd have to call a meeting of all the towns in the school committee together. So we'll keep you abreast of that.
Would legal counsel be able to draw up the specific language?
Yeah, Cheryl's working.
There is specific language for any intermunicipal agreement. We have used it 3 times in the past. When we shared Dr. Marshall with Middlesex, when we opened a bank account with the town of Barry when they did their roof project, and when the town of Hubbardston did their roof project. So it's a standard language. There's that one section that talks about specifically what you are doing. And so I'm working on that now, and bond counsel will okay it and make changes if necessary.
And my plan will be tomorrow to send each of the select boards, the 3 select boards that we voted on the duration of the loan tonight, and then to the 5 select boards, the process that we're undergoing currently, and that we'll be back in touch with them about a meeting.
So maybe a lesson learned here is the next time we look at regional agreement, we may want, in unique circumstances, some sort of bailout language that would allow us in certain circumstances to do something. It would have to be pretty fine-tuned, but I mean, we shouldn't have to go through a lot of this jumping through hoops.
Right.
It makes sense what we're doing, but if the language really, if we're straitjacketed with that language that we have to go through all this, then maybe down the road, we have to start looking at that kind, just as a fail-safe type thing.
Good point. Good. Public comment? Jess, anybody?
No.
School committee concerns? Are there any school committee? Yes?
I just wanted to talk about Hubbardston is still down 1 member on the school committee for failure to elect. And I attended the last select board meeting. I thought that they had 4 candidates that have applied for that position, but I guess the candidates weren't invited that time. So we still don't have another member yet. So their next meeting on August 21st, they have invited the 4 candidates and asked us to attend because it'll be a joint meeting. So hopefully by September
We'll have our
meeting,
4th.
we should have our full.
Our 15th
Yeah,
member.
yeah.
Our 15th member.
So that's all.
Good.
So, not a concern, but and maybe Colleen can help me on this. And it was a screenshot I took 4 or 5 weeks ago. Actually, my wife took it because I'm technically challenged. And we had, I think, a middle schooler who either won a contest or was involved with the Rutland Fire Department to make posters, to create posters that can be placed anywhere or everywhere. And she did all the artwork, et cetera. And either she won it or they chose that her posters would be the ones that will be placed. And I had a couple pictures of posters. Obviously, I'm not going to pass this around because it's too small, but is there better information on that? Anybody?
I'm going to ask Principal DeMarias if she heard that, if she's aware of that project. Was that something that was done perhaps in art class? A lot of times when they have these competitions, they'll bring them to the art teachers, and this is something the art teachers will do with the kids.
Yes, that's correct, Ms. Muha. That was part of the arts curriculum, art class.
Okay, because the only caption I have here is that Barry Fire is proud of our continued partnership with the staff and students of the Quabbin Regional School District, and then they have a picture of the young lady. So, I mean, I didn't get, there wasn't as much of a write-up as I was hoping, so that's what I was just wondering, but I'm going to shout out to that student.
Right.
You know, who.
And the teacher. So I'm sure that was Mrs. Payne that does that project with the kids. So, thank you.
Any other school committee?
Not a school committee, but I just had a question. So the kindergarten nights for each of the schools, for all the schools but Hardwick, it's after 5. Hardwick is doing I didn't know if there was a reason why Hardwick was doing their kindergarten day at 10 a.m. And I only mentioned it because I ran into a group of Hardwick Elementary School kindergarten parents who are all needing to now take the whole day off to get to the kindergarten. So I was just wondering if there was a reason why we did it differently than all the other schools. If I could pass on the information, I didn't know if I should just call Shelley.
Shelley is at a safety grant conference this week, so she's not here with us tonight. But the principal's schedule, those based on sort of previous experience and working with parents, I don't want to answer for her around that, but we can definitely look into that and find out more information for you.
I didn't know if there was a special circumstance that I could just take a breath and go to their kindergarten at 10 o'clock.
I'm not sure, but
Theirs at 9 o'clock.
OCAM has theirs at 9 o'clock.
OCAM has 9?
I can tell them that too.
I thought most
about like orientation.
Yes.
Hubbardston is at 10 a.m. It's 11.
So the orientation is the kindergarten, it's not,
If that's what mine is, if that's what you're talking about.
Thank you.
I think most of them were during the day, if I recall.
I think so. I think Ruggles Lane had.
There's some people later in the day.
Yeah.
Ours is at 5 o'clock on August 28th.
But the open houses are always at night. Yeah.
I'll clear.
okay. Walter?
Mr. Clark, I believe, has been, it's not only buildings and ground, but safety, is that right? Is there a subcommittee that you'll be working with, you know?
Yes, the central office.
Central office.
Central office.
I think we could keep it in building and grounds, to be honest with you.
Oh, you want to keep it? Okay.
Yeah, I think that probably makes the most sense.
You want it there, you got it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, ground safety, yeah, you got buildings, ground and safety. We can change that. Building grounds and safety, we can take care of that.
Get some students to do some sort of icon for.
Okay.
Amazing.
New business, we need a motion to appoint Superintendent Colleen Muha as the Quabbin Regional School District's representative to the Keystone Educational Collaborative.
So moved.
Second, is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Willannon?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cormier?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler?
Yes.
Ms. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Next, we needed a motion to appoint Superintendent Colleen Muha as the Quabbin Regional School District representative to the CAPS Collaborative.
So moved.
Second.
And seconded. Further questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Willannon?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cormier?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler?
Yes.
Ms. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
And Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Superintendent, in our packet regarding student handbooks.
Yes, so each year we have to vote to approve our student handbooks. So this year, what our principals have done is they've highlighted for you any changes in language within the handbook so that you can kind of focus in on what's different. So Principal DeMarias was going to address the middle high school handbooks, and then Mr. Carlson was going to address the elementary handbooks, which
They're in the drive.
Oh,
I can print them. It's a lot of paperwork.
so the elementary handbooks are all the same with the exception of sort of school-based information, contact information, cover page, that kind of thing.
Who would you like me to pull up first?
Ms. DeMarias.
Thank you, Ms. Muha. I just want to check on my end. Can you see slides that I have shared? There are 2 slides.
Just give me 1 second.
Yeah, we're bringing them up.
Sure.
Oh.
Okay, so before we dive into some of the changes, I want to acknowledge the administrators who took part in dissecting the handbook at a closer level this summer, especially Mr. Steve Nikora, who led the way for some of these edits. So want to do a shout out to him. As you know, the handbook is really important to nail down in terms of the changes we're having in technology and to make sure students and families and staff have a clear understanding of expectations as well as potential consequences for particular behavior and academic malpractice. And so the majority of the changes, the first slide highlights, are editorial changes. They're updates based on legal advice, of course, from our district's lawyer. And we've changed that information according to him and consolidated multiple existing documents. So it's more efficient and precise. For example, our logo that's been updated, that is now updated on the handbook, strategic planning, the mission, core belief, values document, the bullying and harassment procedure, semester and full year courses, regulation regarding suspension, there's a legal update there, sexual harassment clause, and language on excused absences to allow for parents to excuse up to 7 absences without outside documentation. As we know, mental health has played a big role in our children's lives. And the last bullet I'll highlight a little bit more on the second slide, we'll give parents that leeway a little bit more to allow for some of those absences without, for example, medical approval. So the 3 links that are on the bottom of this slide, you can please feel free to browse and peruse. Each of the links takes you to the specifics of why things were changed and what were changed about them. The first piece is the academic integrity. In order to keep up with the changing technology, I know somebody alluded to artificial intelligence. We definitely are facing this challenge. All schools are at the middle and especially at the high school level, where apps and points of interest for kids, including Chat GPT and other innovative technology, have kicked in to, in one way, support and provide examples, but another way, make it a lot easier to have academic malpractice. And we wanted to provide some language as a basis to begin that conversation for students at the same time.
Lost your Pranima. We can't hear you.
No, I think she froze.
Oh, there she is.
We can't hear you,
You're
Pranima.
muted, I think.
We can't hear.
Oh, boy.
Oh,
Can
there you are.
We can hear now.
Okay. Did you hear anything? I'm sorry. I often do talk to myself, my husband says, so I don't know what did you hear the artificial intelligence piece? And
Yes.
Okay. So I apologize. And I often repeat myself, so I might repeat again. But we also wanted to acknowledge the age gap between the students of obviously academically being a 6th grader and having a malpractice in terms of plagiarism or other academia is a lot different than when you're an 11th, 12th grader. So the consequences need to look a little bit differently. And we as educators need to do our part in terms of educating students what that will look like. So we want it to be explicit in the handbook that it is our goal, especially during English classes, but we're going to take the opportunities during all classes and flex to continue the growth in the areas for students to recognize what malpractice is, what the artificial intelligence and technology sort of aspects are, and what they're used for appropriately and what's an inappropriate use. So that's a trajectory that we added in terms of our own accountability, that we will support students in that trajectory and curriculum aspect, but at the same time, acknowledge at certain grade levels what is an appropriate consequence. So you'll see that gradual release and accountability reflected in the academic integrity, especially page 14 of the handbook. You'll also see some new additions in terms of middle school promotion and requirements, so they're explicit for all middle schoolers, and the National Junior Honors Society Constitution, how some of the academic malpractice is aligned to the core beliefs and missions and acceptability. So that piece is on there. And you will see the updated daily class schedules to reflect new scheduling. Obviously, we're shifting to a new schedule, so there's language to reflect that. If you look at maybe the link under update details, if somebody could click that link, the first one. So this walks through a little bit more in detail of the areas I just highlighted. So the academic practice policy, what was updated about it. And on the right-hand side, here are the specifics that have been updated in the handbook. So if you spend a little time going through each of those areas, you'll see the continuum looking a little bit different, grades 6 through 8, and then 9 through 12, and specific language for students to understand this policy more and more. I think at the high school in particular, in the upper grades, we have had some challenges with academic malpractice and what plagiarism looks like in an English class and a science class, and really being careful to educate our students, because what we do at the high school will train them if they're going on to college, and colleges are not so forgiving. So it's a balance of course, holding students accountable, but giving them that knowledge base early with a lot of examples, and providing them with the supports they need to make good decisions. And so you can please just scroll through that document. If you go down, you will see some of our thinking behind those pieces. Of course, this has been articulated in a better way legally through council in terms of some of the other clauses on sexual harassment. Updated, and I'm happy to pause here. I know that's a lot, but those are the big sections that have been changed, and we're looking for your support around these areas.
Any questions for Pranima? You're absolutely right. The updating of the language in the handbooks had to be current. So thank you for those adjustments.
Thank you.
Elementary?
We should probably vote each handbook separate.
We could do it collectively?
Oh, we are? Okay. We're doing them separately. It's going to take me a minute to just get a spreadsheet change.
Well, we can do them together if you want. I just thought that.
Committee,
Why
would you
don't we
like?
see the next one, I guess.
Just do them together.
Yeah, let's see the other ones and ask our questions as we go along. Yeah, I agree with you. Agree.
Can adjust the motion.
We need to.
Something.
So Mr. Carlson is going to speak to the elementary changes.
Okay.
And Mr. Brophy, if I could just say that I printed these before I changed the logo. That's why you see page 1 is stapled to your, so if you need an updated one, I'm happy to do that for you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm sharing on behalf of the elementary administrative team who have put countless hours in. I do want to call out a few individuals who have spent sort of a lot of time in creating this version of the handbook that's being presented this evening. Jess Bennett, thank you so much for working with the administrative team and making those changes. And I want to also call out the work that Jill Peterson did. And I think that work that Jill did kind of predates and goes back to when we had our TFM, self-assessment back in December of 22, and our previous director of student services kind of passed along some information, and Jill took that and ran with it. So I think a lot of the changes for our elementary handbook and the feedback that we received really kind of began last December, and we've kind of chipped away at it. I believe the version that Jess is sharing now is the one, this happens to be the Ruggles Lane version of it. And essentially, what we have is I kind of went through and highlighted what was going to be different or what needed to be changed. And you can kind of look at it at your leisure. And as Pranima said, we're kind of throwing a lot at you in regards to some of the changes, but you will have, probably additional time with some of these handbooks should you choose. But we obviously updated in some of the early pages, whether it was a new administrator, new contact information, new school committee members, making sure that anything that needed to be updated in regards to personnel was updated and where it needed to be. Once we get into like where page 6 is, that's sort of like, when we talk about our vision and mission and objectives and core values, certainly these come from the strategic plan that this district and other members of our learning community worked through, starting in November of 22. So any work that has been put into the forward planning for the district in regards to the strategic plan was sort of culled from that and inserted into the elementary handbook. Earlier, Mrs. Muha kind of referred to something that's building specific. So one thing that you'll obviously see as a difference between Ruggles Lane and Oakham and Hardwick and Hubbardston is, what do the dismissal procedures look like? And I think we've made adjustments. And I know in talking to Aaron that there's going to be some changes at Hubbardston in regards to what dismissal looks like. So I think that's just one of those inherent challenges that we have, and we constantly kind of take a look at and make sure that we're staying where we need to be in order to ensure safety of students and staff. As we move forward, there may be changes around page 12 in regards to cost and payment for breakfast and lunch. I don't know that we have an absolute answer for that as of right now, as of August 10th at 8:05. But as soon as we have an answer, I believe there's a bill in the House right now that could currently impact this. So as soon as we have an answer for that, we'll make sure that the handbooks reflect. When we get around page 20, I'll just kind of point out that the code of conduct at the elementary level didn't necessarily change, but I highlighted disciplinary procedures here because what we did is we kind of moved and shifted, and you're going to see it on page 21 where we kind of inserted more descriptive information regarding what the disciplinary procedures look like, particularly regarding students with disabilities. So we received feedback from our legal team, and in borrowing language from the state, we found that we needed, even though this was information and these were practices that we were following, it didn't really live in our handbook. And I think that this review of our handbook kind of gave us that opportunity to kind of notice and name all of those items that we felt like we were following through on, but it wasn't as tangible, for those families that are accessing the handbook online. So all of that's there that's highlighted, we kind of added in as far as specific information regarding disciplining students with disabilities. And also previous on page 21, and you don't necessarily have to go back, Jess, that's okay, but it's pretty similar. We basically linked in the same thing that the middle high school did in regards to updated information regarding bullying prevention and intervention plan that we got from Dr. Salavardos. So all of these sort of links, I think it's going to make all of, and I think the bullying prevention plan is like 28 pages. So certainly it's something that would take up a lot of real estate in our handbook, but it has quick and speedy access for anyone who wanted to access it through, our district website. After that, primarily from page 26, and again, this is kind of echoing something that Pranima talked about earlier, but we essentially just put in all of those policies and live links so that whether it's bringing it to an explanation on the DESE page, or it's something that's a more sort of in-district document, all of those are live links. So rather than just referencing it, it's a clickable link that we can actually get into. I think probably the last item of note is we expanded right toward the end of the elementary handbook in really kind of parsing out what it looks like is in regards to due process. And last year when we met with our legal team, we found that there were some significant changes to versions of 37H, and now those are kind of carrying forward. And a lot of what you're going to see here is really outlining, what is the difference and what is the legal definition between, disciplinary sanctions and appeals, or, expulsion versus in-school suspension. So it's making some of these documents that have been working documents for us for a number of years, it's making it more accessible to the public, to anyone who may be interested in seeking that out. But I would say that what kind of drove us to including this and making sure that it was more clear and providing transparency were the changes to 37H. So essentially, in one way, one of the major differences is before we move toward a disciplinary action similar to like an in-school or out-of-school suspension, are we providing some intermediate alternative measures in order to support that student and getting them back into class prior to, removing them. So there's definitely some finite points in there that are a little bit different, but including the depth for the discipline process is something that's going to be new for the elementary handbook too. And I think that kind of brings us to the end of the changes that we saw for the elementary handbook, and we would appreciate your support on it.
Any questions, Mr. Carlson, on the updates on the handbook? Superintendent, thank you for the clarification, the updates, the explanations. The principal regards to.
I just want to thank the principals because they literally started working on these in June during our summit, and they spend a significant amount of time so that we can send them to our legal counsel for review and make sure we have all the language that is necessary in there. And I just want to echo Chris on Jill Peterson's role in this. She came to Summit with us in June. And so while everybody else was kind of working on schedules and things that were going to impact them in the upcoming year, Jill said, let me take that elementary handbook and let me make some of those changes so that they as a team didn't need to worry so much about it. Jill is retiring next week. We had planned to honor her on a Wednesday afternoon, but she has said thanks, but no thanks. I'm going to exit quietly. But if you get the chance to see her, please wish her well. And I just can't thank our administrative team enough for all their work on these handbooks. And we will, Chris, update the lunch. Back in June, we didn't know what lunch was going to be, but now we know we have free lunch happening. So thank you, guys.
So need a motion to approve the student handbooks for the middle and high school, and as well as all the elementary schools. Is there a motion?
Sure.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Deb, second. Any further discussion?
So I think I might know the answer. So let me pose something to you. And my question is sort of like on a zero tolerance policy, which harkens back to something that I personally knew of. But anyway, so child comes in, let's say a knife is found in a backpack, and I know we have a whole weapons thing there. And I know we start going through stuff, but let's say on day 3, it turns out, brother comes and says, yes, I'm the one who put it there. My sister did not know anything about it. Do we have a zero tolerance policy that says it doesn't matter how it got there, you brought it into school, and you need to, have the punishment, or can that be mitigated, I guess is what I'm saying, based upon a fact situation?
We have clear procedures in place. There's no doubt about that. But the state has recently really pushed back. And I think what both administrators were alluding to was that they are trying to find sort of alternatives to suspensions and considerations of students. So the investigative process is a little bit more deep than it used to be. So I think that's where we would see the difference. But we do have very clear outlined expectations when things like that happen. Sure. I don't know if that sort of explains it.
Anyone else? Seeing and hearing none. Roll call.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mr. Deschamps isn't here. Mr. Willannon?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cormier?
Yes.
Mr. Wiggler?
Yes.
Ms. Thompson?
Abstain.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes. There's no request for executive session, and I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Is there a second? And seconded, and we're adjourned.